What's up? Hey, what's good? What's poppin'? I am Miss Berry. Welcome back to my channel. I appreciate you guys for sliding through and coming to kick it with me. As you guys can see from the title, yes, we are getting right back up into Mr. Sowell. Y'all know I need his knowledge. I need to know what he gonna say. So I want to know what they don't teach us, what they didn't teach us, and all of the above. You know, let's pick his brain a little bit. Let's get into it. Mecca. All right, so guys,
Thomas Sowell is one of the greatest philosophers of our time, yet he isn't even mentioned among the 100 most influential African Americans in Ebony magazine. To help more people learn about him, please consider liking this video and subscribing. To get useful materials about Dr. Thomas Sowell, please visit the website. Thank you, and let's begin.
Wisdom.
Well, you link wealth creation to the acquisition of skills and the employment of skills in a disciplined way, and also in a frugal way in terms of lifestyles. But others would attribute the generation of poverty, the obverse of wealth, to colonialism, imperialism, exploitation, economic exploitation. How do you handle those arguments?
Well, insofar as those arguments are meant seriously, you can simply look at evidence. Insofar as they're purely political arguments, they're saying what people want to hear. Obviously, there are people who would much rather hear that than to hear the other, because if you think that's the problem, then there's not only a quicker solution, but there's a more emotionally and morally satisfying solution. Namely, you fight against the exploiters and so on. If you look at the third world, for example, those parts of the third world where the imperialist powers have come in have typically been the more advanced parts of it. They've been the most prosperous ones. Even if they weren't prosperous before they got there, they became the more prosperous parts. Those parts of the third world that the imperialists have never touched are, almost without exception, the very poorest places on this earth.
So you don't find any explanation for poverty and colonialism? The reverse, perhaps?
Oh, absolutely. When the Romans, for example, invaded the British Isles, they conquered the southern part of Britain, but they never conquered Scotland. And for centuries thereafter, perhaps for 1,000 years thereafter, Scotland was far behind England in economic and cultural development, because England had the advantage of tying into the whole Roman civilization, and everything that it had created, to some extent, percolated down through the British. That doesn't mean the British were happy with the Romans being there. You know, 1,000 years later, Churchill could say, we owe London to Rome, but that's 1,000 years later, and Churchill didn't have to go through what those people went through. So I'm not saying that this is good for the people who were there, but in the longer run, of course, England became what it was because the Romans came. And Scotland finally developed only after England conquered Scotland, and then the culture that developed in England then could spread into Scotland as well.
Well, does this suggest then that in addressing poverty in today's world there ought to be a latter-day reincarnation of imperialism or colonialism in some form?
No, because I think politically it's impossible. I hear from various parts of some independent nations, they say that they were better off under colonialism and so on. That isn't in the cards. The people who are in the imperialist nations don't want to take on that.
But some would say that there is the functional equivalent of that in the operation of the multinational corporation today. Do you see that, the operation of the multinational corporation, as help or hindrance to the generation of wealth in developing countries?
Well, in those countries, the multinational corporations very often not only pay more money than the local industry pays, but it brings in skills that don't exist and creates industries that never were there before. To that extent, I think they are a source of the transmission of international human capital. To that extent, yes.
Now, this excerpt is taken from the book, Intellectuals and Race, by Dr. Thomas Sowell. In addition to the inherent geographic advantages that Western Europe has had over Eastern Europe, for example, more navigable waterways leading to the open seas, with Western European rivers and harbors not being frozen over, as often or as long in winter as rivers and harbors in Eastern Europe, due to the warming effect of the Gulf Stream on Western Europe. Another major historic advantage growing out of geography is that Western Europe was more readily accessible to invasion by Roman conquerors. Despite the ruthless slaughters in those conquests and the subsequent brutal oppressions by the Roman overlords, among the lasting advantages which the Roman conquests brought to Western Europe were Roman letters, so that Western European languages had written versions centuries before the languages of Eastern Europe did. to the enormous advantages of literacy. As such, Western Europeans had the further advantage of a far greater accumulation of written knowledge in their languages, even after the languages of Eastern Europe began to develop written versions, but still had not yet caught up with the centuries-long accumulations of knowledge written in Western European languages. Literacy was not the only thing that moved from West to East in Europe. So did coins, printing presses, castles, crossbows, paved streets, and vaccinations, among other economic and social advances. But all of this took time, sometimes centuries. Moreover, people from Western Europe, Germans, Jews and others, were often a majority of the population in Eastern European cities in earlier centuries, while Slavs remained a huge majority in the surrounding countrysides. For example, before 1312 the official records of the city of Krakow were kept in German, and the transition, at that point, was to Latin. Only decades later did Poles become a majority of the population in Krakow. The towns of medieval East Central Europe were often cultural enclaves of foreigners, again, mostly Germans, but with many Jews as well, and, in the Balkans, Greeks and Armenians, joined in later centuries by Turks.
Like, just look at the way it's like made. Like, I just wonder what it looks like on the ground. Like when you're driving through it. Like, everything looks so close together. It look like a bunch of houses, but or apartments. But just look at it. And then just like when you look up, like I didn't even realize, like I looked up. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm all fascinated with the picture and stuff. But like you look up and it's like you could just see just more and more just spread it all across. Like it's just, it's just amazing like the ground, like what it looks like down here when you up on the ground. Like if anyone's ever like flown before, like it's just, I don't know, it's just a whole different visual. And I just think that everyone should experience that, sightsee that.
Short, there has been for centuries, not only a disparity between the opportunities and advances in the two halves of Europe, but great disparities within Eastern Europe itself, between the indigenous peoples of the region, and the transplanted Western Europeans living in Eastern Europe, the Baltic and the Balkans. Neither genes nor discrimination are necessary to explain this situation, though some intellectuals and politicians have chosen to claim that the differences have been due to race and others have chosen to blame social injustices. Many other racial and other groups in many other parts of the world have likewise ended up with large disparities in opportunities and achievements, for reasons that range across a wide spectrum and cannot be reduced to genes or injustices. Thank you for watching this presentation to the end.
All right, y'all. So we're going to end that video right there like that because I hate when that bar just pops up over here, y'all. It just gets on my nerves. I know y'all don't know what I'm talking about. And that is most definitely besides the point. But, yeah, it's always pretty interesting to, just tune into Dr. Sowell. I honestly thought that I'm sorry, I don't know what that was. But anyway, I just thought that he would be, speaking more, like I didn't expect them to be, doing like a little narration, but it's cool. Like, we still got like a little knowledge, and I pretty much got what he's saying. I just got what he's saying. It's just like, I think that a lot of people don't really, probably tune in and care to listen to, like, really listen to Mr. Sowell because, he's definitely like a free thinker. You know what I'm saying? He has like a certain amount of knowledge that, a lot of people won't take the time to obtain, like he obtained this knowledge from doing research and talking to people and seeing this and doing that, and just different, like, over the years. So we all get the same 24 hours. It's just, how you gonna spend yours. But anyway, guys, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this reaction video just as much as I enjoy reacting to it. I enjoy, just obtaining some knowledge, like, just hearing him speak, and, it made sense. And it's just crazy how, people talk on issues. The video could have came out in 1980, and people talking on issues, and we're in 2022, about to go into 2023 in like a couple weeks, and the issues is still, it's really going on. Times have changed, but not a whole lot. Some things are worse, some things are better. I'm not saying that everything is just completely just bad. There are a lot of great things, you know what I'm saying? But, life is definitely what you make it. But anyway, y'all comment down below. Give me more recommendations on what you guys would like to see on this channel. Y'all go show Mr. Sowell some love and go subscribe to his channel, y'all, because you know you don't want to miss the knowledge that he's dropping as well, even if it's, you know, videos that it's already been circulated, even if it's old or whatever the case may be. It don't matter. Like, knowledge is knowledge. Also, guys, don't forget to also thumbs up, like up this video. And if you are new to my channel, don't leave, y'all, without hitting that red subscribe button and ringing that bell, so when I drop a new video, you will know, you won't miss it, and you will be right here. And y'all, as always, I really appreciate you guys for coming through and coming to kick it with me. And as always, I appreciate y'all. But until next time, I feel like I really need to go blow my nose, because that's just, I don't know, you know, isn't just me, but when it get cold, my nose, you know, your nose just run. I mean, well, I guess it's everybody, because if you outside in the cold, don't mind me, y'all. I just ramble. I be having all these random thoughts. But until next time.